Hi my beautiful bookish friends, I'm Bowen and welcome to my channel. This video is going to be my 2025 goals and resolutions. If you didn't see the video I posted yesterday, I will link that in the description down below. I failed quite a lot of my reading goals for 2024, so I think going into 2025 we're going to set more realistic expectations of ourselves. Now, if you've ever seen any of my wrap-ups, you know that I'm kind of a mood reader, but there are certain rules that I impose on my reading which tend to hinder more than help. And some of them, well, most of them, are really, really fucking stupid. Some of them are ones that I feel like a lot of people have, but the one that hinders me the most is the most stupid. So I'm just going to go through all of the really stupid, arbitrary rules that I have on my reading that will not be coming into 2025 with me. One that I feel like a lot of people have is they save certain books for certain times of year. They've got certain books that they want to read in the autumn, they've got certain books that they want to read in winter. Now, I've never been in the mood for a Christmas book in July. That's never really happened, but for example, earlier this year, I really wanted to read Heartstopper Volume 5, but I was saving it for a readathon, and then the readathon rolled around, and I wasn't in the mood for it anymore, and it means I've not read it at all this year, because I feel like I missed the window of opportunity when I was in the mood to read it. So I'm not saving books for a certain time of year anymore. If I'm in the mood to read it then and there, that is what I'm going to be picking up. Another thing that's not coming to 2025 with me is going to be Magical Readathon. As much as I really do love this readathon, and I've been competing in it for the last 3 years or so, I'm not bringing this into 2025 with me. I failed spectacularly at this in September, and then since then, the year-long one, I completely dropped off the face of the planet with it. I've not even tried with it, so I think I want a break from, like, actual big readathons like that, because this kind of goes into the last one where I was saving certain books for certain times of the year to fulfill certain prompts for these challenges. But then it doesn't really work out in my favour, so I don't think I'm going to be participating in Magical Readathon this year. If you don't know what Magical Readathon is, it's hosted by G over at Book Roast, and I love this readathon, and the interactiveness of it is just really fun. But I think that it's just a little bit much sometimes, so I'm just taking a break off of doing this readathon this year. Another stupid rule that's not coming to 2025 with me is going to be I don't read 2 books by the same author back to back, and I don't read 2 books from the same series back to back. I have the memory of a fish. Why in the fuck I thought this was a good idea is absolutely beyond me, because then I end up not reading the series and leaving months between 2 books, and then I forgot everything that happened in book 1 by the time I go around to picking up book 2. It makes sense for me to binge a series. Why do I stop doing this? I don't know, but I'm going to go back to binging series back in 2025. And the last stupid, dumb, arbitrary rule, and the one that hinders my reading the most, and it is so stupid, and I'm fully aware of how fucking stupid it is I don't read 2 books with the same colour cover back to back. Because, and my reasoning for this is even more stupid than the rule itself, I don't want to ruin the aesthetic in my reading journal, because as most people with a reading journal, they have the bookshelf spread, and my bookshelf is coloured in with the cover of the book. I don't want to have 2 books that are the same cover back to back in my reading journal, so I don't read 2 books with the same coloured cover back to back. And that hinders my reading way more than you'd expect, because the amount of books on my TBR that are blue, it's always blue. I don't know why it's always blue, but it is. And this is just so stupid that I'm leaving it in 2024. 2025 is a new year, it's a clean slate, and we're going to leave all the bad juju in 2024. So that's what I'm leaving in 2024. What I'm bringing into 2025 is every single iteration of being a mood reader, and I'm going to fully lean into that and just see what happens. If I want to read from my physical TBR all year, then that is exactly what I'm going to do. If I just want to read on my Kindle all year, that is exactly what I'm going to do. If I just want to listen to audiobooks all year, that is exactly what I'm going to do. Just whatever I'm in the mood for in the moment. And if I'm not feeling it, we're not forcing our way through books that suck this year. We are going to embrace the DNF in 2025. I had a real hard time with working out like how I was going to go about doing my DNFs. Now on Storygraph this is so easy because there's a DNF option. Storygraph is just fully superior for this. If you've not heard of Storygraph, my Storygraph is always linked in my description below. I will use Storygraph and Goodreads, but Storygraph is my favourite. The user face is better, the interactiveness is better, it's It's better all round. There's plenty of videos that you can find on people telling you how awesome Storygraph is, and I love it so much. But when it comes to Goodreads, my rules for DNF are going to be, it only counts as I started the book if I get past chapter 1. Because if I've only read chapter 1 and I decide to DNF it at chapter 1, I didn't start that book, I sampled that book. So if I just sampled it, it doesn't count as a DNF. If I get past chapter 1 but up to 50%, it's just removed from the shelves. If I get past 50% or 50% or more of the way through the book when I decide to DNF it, I'm allowed to give it a rating. Now, this might be a little bit of a controversial opinion. If you choose to not rate the books that you DNF because you did not finish them, then that is absolutely fair and valid. But when it comes to me and my reading, I pretty much know what rating I'm going to give a book by the 50% mark. It's not very often that changes, and I will write in the review that I did not finish it. But if I get past 50%, I'm allowing myself to give that book a rating and mark it as read on Goodreads. So the full accuracy of what I read this year will be on Storygraph, not on Goodreads, because I will be putting some of my DNFs onto Goodreads. Because I have literally just finished a book that I forced my way through, and I wanted to DNF it so badly. I am so upset that I couldn't just hold off a few weeks and start this in 2025, and I hate Reddit this year. It should have gone on my worst books video. Stay tuned for my December wrap up to let you know what that book is, but like, I fucking hated it so much, and I don't want to have to suffer through books that I'm not enjoying anymore. I still want to be able to give them a rating if I feel like I've given them a fair shot, and I feel like 50% of the way through the book is a fair shot. Now, if you don't do it like this, that is absolutely fine, that is fair, that is valid. Your books, your ratings, your rules. But this is my channel, my books, my ratings, my rules. And this is just how I'm going to roll with my DNFs this year. Speaking of my Storygraph and my Goodreads, I finally caught up to date with all of my reviews for all of the books that I'd read in the past like 2 or 3 years. So one of my goals is to just keep up to date with my reviews on Storygraph and Goodreads. If you don't follow me on Storygraph and Goodreads, it's always linked in the description down below. My reading goal is going to be 150 books. I feel like I've done that for at least the past 3 or 4 years. So I feel like that's a very achievable goal for me. One of my sort of tentative goals is I want to get a library card, specifically for audiobooks. I know that they do ebooks as well, but I like reading ebooks on my Kindle. I don't like reading on my phone. So if I can get my library card and have books on my Kindle, if I can work out how to do that, then I will. If not, I'll just get a library card and use it for audiobooks. I don't feel like I listen to audiobooks nearly as much as like I should or I want to, but maybe if I'm in my mood reader DNF era, I will listen to more audiobooks. One of my goals for the past few years is 50% of the books that I read have to be from my physical TBR. This is not something that I'm bringing into 2025 with me. If I just want to read on Kindle Unlimited, I will, because the amount of times I will just go on Amazon and just find a random book that I've never heard of before and just read that there and then in the moment because it was interesting to me in the moment that I saw it, then that is what I'm going to do. So my plan is to use Kindle Unlimited more. I've got different wish lists for Kindle Unlimited books. I've got a wish list of books I physically own. I've got like comfort reads, and I've got a Kindle wish list. Some of them are on Kindle Unlimited, some of them aren't. I've just got quite a few wish lists on Amazon, and about 4 of them are for Kindle Unlimited. And I love that for me because it's a really good way to keep track of like my TBR, especially because you can only take out 20 books from Kindle Unlimited at any one time. Normally I only have like 3 or 4 out, and then everything else is just in the wish list whenever I see it, and I'm there like, oh, I will want to read that. So I just go and check the wish list. And that's sometimes just how I choose what book I want to read. The only restrictive type of goal that I'm going to be putting on myself for 2025 is in regards to my book buying, not necessarily my book reading, even though the book reading does have something to do with it. I'm not going to add to the amount of books on my physical TBR. And what I mean by that is anytime I want to purchase a physical book that would add to my TBR, I have to have read 2 books from my physical TBR already. So it's like 2 steps forward, 1 step back, because 2 steps forward and 1 step back is still moving forward. Slowly, but it is. So this is how many books are on my physical TBR currently. That's a big number. Holy hera. I'm fully aware of it. That's just excessive. So we're not making this number any bigger at any point this year. I do have quite a few novellas on my shelf, which I know I would try and make into a loophole of some description, but No, we're not doing that. If I'm reading a novella, which is any book under 200 pages, I have to have read 2 novellas for it to count as one book from my TBR. And bind-ups of a series would only count as one book if it is only one physical book, even if there are 3 separate stories that I could put into Storygraph or Goodreads individually in there. That one book still counts as one. I have spent straight up just an obscene amount of money on books this year. I've been to 2 bookish events. I have spent easily, without even thinking about it, over $2,000 on books this year, which is truly fucking excessive to me. So while I know a book buying ban isn't realistic for who I am as a person, I do want to kind of limit the amount of money I'm spending on books. Like, I know it's going to be nowhere near what it was this year because I don't have any more book events to go to, and that's where most of my money went. But I do want to just be more conscious of the books that I'm buying and make sure it's something that I am actually interested in, rather than just because it's cheap or because I've heard other people talk about it. Because this is truly fucking excessive. And those are all my reading goals for 2025. So if you managed to get this far into the video, then leave me a round emoji in the comments down below and let me know some of your reading goals for 2025. But for now, thank you so much for stopping by. It has been lovely having you here, and I hope to see you in another video coming very soon. Bye.